Well, it's on Ridealong, so it's happening here.
Came over here. What does it mean? You know, I grew up in what I guess you call a typical family.
We break all the stories, and that's just a fact. Yeah, welcome to the ride. Welcome to nice, beautiful Grenada. It is Wednesday on the ride, and I thank you guys so much for joining us today. This is a conversation that is overdue. Yeah, we call it the conversation overdue because tonight we have Mr. Jerry Edwin, prominent and controversial lawyer here in Grenada, making a lot of headlines lately, and he's here to chat with us on a few topical issues for today. In fact, for the week, probably for the month. A lot of things to discuss with lawyer Jerry Edwin on the program today, guys. So as you come in, go ahead and share the thing, put it on a few pages, and let us talk. Guys, let me tell you, I'm still here in Grenada. Happy to be back home. As you guys saw, for the past few days, 2 days to be exact, I've been going around and giving you guys some, bird's eye view as to Grenada and how the place is. And let me tell you, man, I was due to come back on Friday, but I had to extend my stay because there are far too much things that I need to do and for a little time. So you probably missed me for 2 or 3 more days because I took some more time off here in Grenada, because after doing the show every day, I don't have much of a vacation left. All right. So we're going to be here for a while. So big up yourself. Lydia, how are you doing? Big up yourself. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you guys. As you come and just share the program. Share the program once, share the program twice. Let me do that as well on my end, because Jerry Edwin is here. Lydia said the baddest of all. Wow. Okay. Lenora Augustine, thank you so much, Lenora Augustine, for sharing. We appreciate you. Guys, as you share the program, I want you to say, I share. As you share the program, I want you to say, I share. So I'll big you up, all right? as you share the program, I want to say I share, so I know who's sharing. I know who to big up because they say sharing is caring. Bobby, if I have mango to suck, but mango not in season. There is no mango. I haven't seen any mangoes. I haven't seen any mangoes. None. Not one. Yeah. All right, hold on. Still sharing. Sieg. I didn't hear of any Sieg. I don't know if Sieg in season or sometimes it just go out of season. It's legal to get Sieg at certain point in time. So I don't know if it's time for Sieg. I didn't get no Sieg. All right, I haven't gotten any Sieg. Anna, how are you doing? Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing. Elise Thomas, thank you so much for sharing. Good night to you, Homelin Gilbert Gordon. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, guys, let's go right into it. Right, I'll save some of the rest of the big up for later. But guys, please continue to share the program. So, as I intro from the top, attorney Jerry Edwin is a prominent lawyer here in Grenada. He represents some of the most controversial cases here. And there are three cases in particular we're going to speak about today, right? He is representing the young man. I don't know if you guys remember the story that we broke about in December, right? Where the young man in Lansapine was barely walking down the street and he was stopped by, well, he was stopped and he was asked not to walk in this area. He was questioned and then later hit by the gentleman's car mirror, and he was asked not to be there. So we broke the story here, and he got a lot of media attention. Jerry Edwin is the lawyer representing this man. I want to get some updates on the case. Also, Jerry Edwin is representing this young man who recently, pelt a bottle and knocked a police officer in the head. Alleged, well, yeah, and it's not alleged anymore because the case was, I believe, yesterday, and the man was given 10 months in prison, and Jerry Edwin also represented that case. But right before we got on air, in fact, yesterday, someone sent me this audio where an incident happened in Simoon. And I just found out that Jerry Edwin is also the lawyer on that particular case. So let us start with this case. This is the situation. The first one we're going to talk about with lawyer. First, let me bring in my good friend, attorney Jerry Edwin. Mr. Jerry Edwin, sir, how you doing?
Hi, good evening, brother, and good evening to your listeners. I'm just living.
You doing good?
Yeah, I'm just living and sinning, brother.
Yeah, man. Listen, Jerry, I'm in your place and I feel bad. We ain't even meet up yet.
We
We ain't,
will.
yeah,
We will.
I mean, when good friends meet up, we go have a little sit by the bar and drink. We're only meeting virtually like this,
Yeah.
So I'm close by, so we had to change that. We had to meet up either tomorrow or so and have sit down and have a drink and a little chat off air.
All right. I take it. I don't drink the spirits,
Now I
but
don't drink.
we could
We're gonna drink. We're gonna drink milk or
coconut
soda.
water.
Yeah, or water. I'm good. I'm good with it.
Absolutely.
I'm good with that. All right, so
I,
Mr.
I just want you to know, you can just refer to me as just a lawyer. I'm just a Manjaloo boy
Uh-huh.
from by way of Samaritan and Duquesne, and I went to GBSS, but I'm just an ordinary guy, brother. No no handles, no handles,
No
no
hand.
handles.
Okay. But some would say that you are representing for some of the most controversial cases that we've seen in recent. I headline. I spoke about three cases. One involving the young man from Lansapine, which I want to touch on to get an update on that.
Yeah.
The case involving the guy who struck the police officer in the head with a bottle, and you made news on that yesterday as well, headlines. And this story, Jerry. So let's start with this one.
Yeah, you know,
Go ahead.
the great Morris Bishop used to say that when the United States gets a cold, Grenadians get pneumonia
Right.
from the cough.
Yeah.
Um, in the last 10 years, well, we could go back 240 years, 340 years, but certainly there has been in the Trump era. I still think America is in the Trump era because Trump exposed an underbelly of contemporary America where you saw white supremacy and racism being unashamed. We thought we had shamed racism, but I think Grenada might be getting the pneumonia of American and certain species of European racism. Because when this lady called me, someone that I know, I've represented her son, and she told me the story of a German
Mm-hmm.
man who came into her home, ransacked her home. I don't know what he was looking for, but he ransacked her home and being displeased with what he apparently did not find, confronted her children. And then he spat, that's correct English. He
Mm-hmm.
spit in the woman's face, the woman's children's
Sure.
face.
I got the audio of the explanation, Jerry. So let's listen to
Yes,
the recollection of it. This is the daughter.
yes, yes.
Good night, Mr. Junior George. I would just like to share uh, something with you that occurred today in Simon St. Andrews. So, there's this young Caucasian male who has unlawfully entered our home, claims to be searching for missing items of his, which were not here, to be exact. So, I asked him what he was looking for, and he said he was searching for something. So I say, you can't touch somebody's home without their permission. And he insists that he was going to enter. So I did push him away for him not to enter in the house. And the young man turned back and spit on me. Yep.
Right.
You
And
see,
she give out a second part of it. They just take the second part of it, picture from
And
her.
on top of that, when I was speaking to him, he was making monkey tricks and kind of bullying in a way, saying that he don't understand, he got something to say, he don't understand the language and all kind of nonsense, which was very, very disrespectful.
Right. So help me understand this. The man came into her house. That's in Grenada right here. He came
yes.
into her house searching for something inside of her house. And in the
A, Gre-
process of not finding it, he spit on her.
a Grenadian, a local,
Right.
would never deem to go into another person's yard without their invitation, much less their home. Listen, there's we had I remember we had a Black Lives protest in front of the U.S. Embassy, and I remember on my way there, I thought, man, I'm going to be the only one there because I had a podium. I had organized it a couple of days before. I didn't hear from anybody, Junior,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, okay, well, I got some poems, I got some essays by some things by Malcolm, I got some stuff by Dr. King. I'm going to just read it, and it's only going to be me by myself standing in my corner. And I got there, and there were already 200 people there. The Charge Affairs of Grenada would say, of the United States to Grenada, would say that our Black Lives Matter protest last year was the largest in the entire Caribbean. In the
Mm.
entire Caribbean, Grenada only has 112,000 people. There is a global. Listen, European soccer players who are black have been called monkeys by European
Mm-hmm.
soccer fans. They throw bananas on the fields. They put on monkey faces. I mean, it's the case in America. I think Bayside, Georgia. Aubrey followed into a neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
blocked with a vehicle, and then shot dead, paralleling Grenada. Well, it didn't come to that. A man used his automobile to threaten and to cause fear to a young man who
Mm-hmm.
is walking in a upper class neighborhood in Grenada.
Yeah,
A
Jerry,
German, a
that
German
yeah,
goes into the home.
yes, yes.
He goes into the home. Now, a Grenadian would never do that. He goes into the home of a person and commences a search. I mean, the testicular fortitude of this person to think that they have that privilege. You see, it's an import. And I wouldn't blame, I mean, it's our history. All of
Mm-hmm.
us are former enslaved persons. You know, you see the way, for example, that the police treat with white persons who are tourists, for example. And
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't blame my officers for this. This is learned. This is centuries of learned behavior, right? And you see the way that black persons in their own country is treated. Well, obviously, some white guy is going to get the idea. He's going to know that he has on his back a big imprint called white privilege. Yeah.
Mm.
So that when even our own police and our own judicial officers confront him, he is assured of the benefit of the doubt. We have to strangle and kill that dog if it ever raises its head in Grenada. I don't know about the rest of you. And let me say this very clearly. I don't have to be a lawyer to take a position of zero tolerance to white supremacist attitudes in the only jurisdiction in the Western Hemisphere where black people could say they own the land. It is
Mm-hmm.
only in the Caribbean, in the entire Atlantic world, that black people own the land,
Mm-hmm.
where we at least represent our countries at the United Nations. Only in the Caribbean. But in Jamaica, in Antigua, in St. Vincent, in Barbados, you hear about this creeping disaster called white supremacy. I don't know if they think they could retake or re-establish themselves because Martin King told us that the, the arc of history bends toward progress.
Mm-hmm.
We will never have slavery again. We will never have white colonialism again. We will never have white supremacy raising its head in the Caribbean. And if it raises its head, all of us have a moral obligation to decapitate it.
Yeah.
We have an obligation. So when a man comes into someone's house, whatever the reason, without seeking an officer of the peace and being dissatisfied, he makes monkey tricks at that person and spits in the face of that person. Well, I hope he knows that the full weight of the law will be brought to bear on him in the days ahead. I think we're in court tomorrow when my clients have been asked to return, and
Right.
we will be asking for the full weight of the law to be brought to bear on this individual.
Yeah, let me update everyone that's watching. We're talking about this first case here. We just got wind of it. In fact, yesterday is when the mother and the daughter reached out to me and explained that it was this happened, this incident happened. We took a little time to check it out a bit. This is what happened, as explained by the mother, by the daughter. A man of German descent who resides somewhere in the vicinity of the Sea Moon area unlawfully came into her house. That happened in Grenada here. Came into a house searching for something, right? Something specific, she mentioned. And it was obviously nowhere to be found in her house. In the process of searching for it, there was some kind of, back and forth words, verbal exchange. And in the process of that, the man spit in her face, right? In the daughter's face. And as far as what she's saying, he did it more than once, right?
Yes, twice.
Uh, he did it twice. Now I don't understand. First and foremost, is this person in his right head? Because no regular average thinking person, whether you're German, Russian, Italian,
Correct.
Grenadian, wherever, no normal thinking person who is sane is going to walk into somebody's house. No one will feel that they have the authority to do that. Is that person a sane individual?
Listen, I mean, privilege of all kinds, whether it's class privilege or race privilege. I mean, people really do get out of their faces, as they say in America. I mean, they come out their face, because this guy felt that he had the right, and I don't know the basis of it. I could, I mean, it is not anything that any Grenadian would do unless they have a relationship with the people in the house. You go and you call the police. You say, listen, I am missing this or the other. And you get an escort from the police. I mean, I just had to do it today with another client. But not only does he spit in the person's face, see, that's bad enough. I think the telling racial animus behind this person's conduct was when he started making monkey tricks.
Mm-hmm.
We know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
He started making monkey tricks at this black person whose home he had just entered. Well, I'm going to ask the judicial officer tomorrow to categorize this as a hate crime. And that's the prism through which we must deal with this offense. Because we have Grenada opens its arms. We love all our visitors, regardless of your color, your creed, or your religion, or your sexual orientation. Come to Grenada. It's a beautiful place, beautiful people. But you're going to respect us. You're going
Yeah.
to respect us all the time. So tomorrow we're going into court, Brother Junior,
Yeah. Well,
and we'll be
today,
asking the
I
magistrate.
heard something happened today. The mother told me something that happened today that was very upsetting, right? Uh,
Yes.
she mentioned that
Well,
when
I'd
she,
rather, if I may, things that happen in the courthouse. I
right,
rather not
not
comment on what
okay,
happens in the court because I was not there.
you was
But
not
I
there.
can tell you, if I am in the court, I am at liberty to discuss with you unless the court has sanctioned any publication of
Right.
any further communication of what happens in the court. But I am unable to talk about anything that happened in the
It-
court. I would have to go to court and then I can come back to you and tell you X, Y, Z has happened. And sometimes when lay people go to the court, they sometimes don't even understand what has happened. But
right.
I'd be happy to report to you and your audience later, subsequently, as to what would have transpired on February the 22nd, which is yesterday, and what would have happened, what would have transpired when I go to court on behalf of these victims of this racial animus.
Right.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand. So what are we looking at? This particular individual, what type of, whether it's jail time or charges,
Yes.
could we expect coming to the pipeline for this individual who unlawfully entered this young lady house and assaulted her
Right.
children?
Well, we want to look at the charges, and I would need to see the charge that was proffered against this individual, and we certainly will be seeking an amendment to those charges in light of what the mother has said, because, of course, to actually spit on someone or to cause someone fear is an assault. So at least we know from what has been said the charges that should have been lodged or were lodged, again, I don't know. I don't have the discovery in this matter.
Mm-hmm.
A one, entry, unlawful entry into someone's home, and assault, and I would add the racial aspect, and I will see where in the Constitution we could bring another case, or even in the under the criminal law, under the criminal code, where we can fit this dastardly racial attitude that animated this person to make monkey tricks at this lady. I mean, we don't do that in Grenada, and we know the source of it. So I would have to look at the charges and request of the prosecution that the charges be upgraded, because I do not believe that this case has been sufficiently charged.
Right. And based on what I've heard behind the scenes, again, from a layman's perspective, what happened in court, it doesn't seem as justice, well, justice had not really prevailed in it. It's an ongoing case. But what happened today really startled me. But we're not going to speak about that because, again, you were not in court and you cannot
Yes,
comment
sir.
on that.
Yes, sir. Yes,
But
sir.
where is that person today? Was that person arrested? Was he charged? Was he released? Is he out?
Neither, neither, nothing, nothing, nothing. He's free man, come to court. Hopefully he doesn't get on a boat and leave, or get on a plane and leave. Um, I don't know that his travel documents were taken.
Well,
So
hold on.
I don't,
Well,
I don't.
Terry. Someone unlawfully entered someone's home and he was not arrested. He was not charged.
Well,
What is
no, I,
from
be, I, if he has come to court, he has been charged. Whether
right?
or not
Did
the charges are sufficient,
right?
you see, is another matter. So I would have to find out, because I was only contacted by the victims this afternoon after working hours, and I have to be in the court. I've been retained to attend court tomorrow, and I will be looking after these clients' rights, their common law rights, their statutory rights, and to ensure that the proper charges are lodged. And if it means an upward departure from the charges that are currently filed, then once I look at this discovery, I think it's warranted. I mean, you can't. I mean, this is. I mean, I tell you, it's like that case in Lansopine. I cannot wrap my head around it.
Well,
But I
this
will
one,
tell you, brother, that
this one.
I will do everything I can. This black man is going to do everything he can, so that our visitors who we welcome to our shore treat our people with respect at all times.
Yes, absolutely. And I count on you and rely on you to keep us updated with this particular case,
Yes, sir.
guys, because this is breaking news. This is not on any platforms at the moment. The mother contacted me late yesterday. I did not make mention of this because I was still in my discovery stage. I had to check out and find out the
Yeah.
legitimacy of this particular case, so I made no mention of it. But the
Yes,
mother.
I think this is the only platform on which this has been reported.
Yes, this is the only platform where this has been reported. And Jerry Edwin was retained today as the attorney. He's going to go in tomorrow and go through the process, and we're going to keep everyone updated on it. This is pretty sad, and nothing is stopping this man from jumping a boat and heading out of the country tomorrow, because he's you don't no word if his travel document was detained, no word on if that is the case at the moment, right? So he probably could leave already, could have left already if he wanted to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, we're gonna keep everyone abreast on that. Let's jump into another big case that you handled in Jerry, that we first broke here on Ride Along. The case involving the Lansopine, the young man
Yes.
at Lansopine, right?
Yes.
Let me give
Yes.
everyone a quick synopsis of what transpired. The young man was walking in Lansopine. He was on the show. He was walking in Lansopine, and he was stopped by an individual who reside in the area. Jerry, take it away from there. What happened?
It was this young man actually lives in a home in Lansopine where his girlfriend was live-in maid to the owners. He had been living there for 9, 10 months. In fact, one of my colleagues said that he saw this young man going in and out, and sometime he'd give him a lift to get to his home. So he was not a stranger to the neighborhood, to the community. At around 9 o'clock in late December, the young man is walking home. He took a bus. The bus dropped him at the gap to Lansapine, and he's walking home, and he notices a car following him slowly. So he moves to the side of the road so the car could pass. Instead, the driver comes right alongside him. There's a woman in the car with this gentleman, this man. I am not going to call him a gentleman. With the man, and he said, "Where are you going?" And the young man, so proud of him, keeps walking because nobody can't ask you where you're going. And he keeps walking. And the car continues driving alongside him. And the driver is becoming irate. "Didn't you hear me asking you a question?" And the wife says to my client, "Answer him," meaning the driver. "Answer him. Don't you hear him? Don't you hear that he's asking you a question?" And the driver continues, "Where are you going? Who are you going to see? Do you live in this neighborhood?" I mean, this sounds just like encounters Black people have in America every time they step into a white neighborhood. I mean, this dog, we should strangle that dog if it ever barks in Grenada. We should not. So the young man, I mean, this makes me, the young man tries to go as far to the side as he can while he's walking. The driver of the car comes alongside him and, using the side mirror of the car, bounces the young man.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then the driver attempts to get out. And the woman in the car, my young man says it appears she's his wife, she has to restrain the driver.
Because he was so angry and agitated.
Was so angry that my guy was not answering him and telling him where he's going. My client reports the issue to the police. The police knows who the white guy is because my client assists them by giving them the plate number, the registration number of the vehicle. The white guy says to the police, "I want you to charge him because he cursed me. He used curse words at me." He lucky I wasn't on the road that night. Sometimes you can't be a lawyer. I mean, I know I'm here as a lawyer, and probably some people would say, Lacey might say, Jerry Edwin. But
Well, you know, Lacey.
no, I don't know Lacey. I was just reading some of the comments.
Yeah.
But the point is that you sometimes have to, keep it real. Persons believe they have privilege, and that privilege is derived from a history of oppressing persons that look like you and me, Julia.
Yeah.
That's the source of their privilege. It is not their ownership of property. It is not it's a false sense of entitlement that has been beat into the victim's consciousness that other person who has oppressed them is superior to them. And that person who knows that the victim believes in their superiority plays that card every time they can. You go to the supermarket sometime and you have to remind visitors, our European visitors, the line starts behind me. Yeah? So when the white guy said to the police, you have to cross these charges because that young man used a curse word at me. You wonder what is in the thinking of the police that they actually charge my client with using a curse word.
Oh, I didn't know that part. I didn't get that update. So the police in turn charge the young man, cross charge him
With
because
violating section 133 of the criminal code. Now, now, I am going to insist to the honorable magistrate who will hear this case that this person be charged for filing a false claim, right? Because you and I mean, every little school child know he made that up. We all know he made that up. Because you're driving your car, you're supposed to go where you're going. Why are you stopping and talking to someone? Why are you interfering with someone who is not on your property? I mean, what gives you the right to believe you could stop them and use your car to intimidate that person, except for the fact that you believe you have privilege derived from your race? Nothing else here in Grenada. Nothing else.
now when we brought up that topic, some nincompoop over on a radio station in St. Andrews, that specific guy, they went on to defend the position of the Caucasian man, saying that, well, what is your client doing in that particular area of
Oh
land?
my. Oh
That was the
my.
difference. From a legal perspective, I want you to address that because for the narrative of people who defending it and making it political, I don't make it political. When I speak about topics like
I'm
this, it's
sorry. What?
a political agenda for me.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Political?
Yeah,
How?
no, some people like to term it political. For me, it's not political, but people who are politically inclined, they tend to always defend at the end of the defense. So they're saying to defend the story, okay, so what is the young man doing in Lansapine? Knowing Lansapine is a kind of area, certain covenants, a certain set of people. What is he doing there? He have no right to be there at that point in time. So I want you to defend anyone who think that
But, but my
Grenadians have a
but
right to be
my
this.
esteemed friend, one of the best lawyers I have ever met, Derek Sylvester, lives in Lansapine. He has a black child. I mean, for someone to I mean, I have an aunt who lives in Lansapine, blacker than me, and our cousins come from America and stay in a house in Lansapine all the time. She has a beautiful home in Lansapine. I mean, we, I think persons who would defend this, we ought to have sympathy with them and recommend a psychiatrist to treat them. Because you
Mhm.
see, we have to understand this. In South Africa, in at the during the end in the mid '80s and toward the end, we had a guy named Gatsha Buthelezi. He was the head of the Inkatha movement, and there was nothing that the apartheid regime could do wrong to Chief Gatsha Buthelezi. Yes, so you will find that, and throughout history, we have these persons who again have some psychiatric problems with their own right, their full God given right as human beings to be equal to everyone. And I must say, I am political. Hell, I was born political. Look at the color of my skin. Yeah.
Mhm.
But does not mean that I am partisan in my politics or
Right,
that I am racially motivated in my politics. Are
right.
my politics about being equal and fair to everyone? So
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that someone would ask that question. The fact is that nobody anywhere in Grenada, In fact, there are some Christians here in Grenada, some white people, peddling their brand of Christianity. And I told them if they did, if you know, you know, you know, in not kind terms, to leave us. I mean, we have black pastors here. I don't need you, And one of them went to a policeman, and he said that I was interfering with them doing their proselytizing and so on. And the policeman came up to me and he said he wanted to have a word with me. I said, not today or ever. I don't want to talk to you. You cannot talk to me. And mind you, I have the greatest respect for police. But I also know that I have a right to tell anyone that I do not want to be proselytized by them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? So if I could say that to a policeman in a respectful way, I know that an ordinary citizen has no right to account to anyone for being on the street at any time,
At
unless at in any neighborhood.
any
I mean,
neighborhood.
this has caused the death of so many black people in America. I mean, you just said Ahmaud Arbery. The young man jogging in a neighborhood like Lansopine. Take Lansopine, put it in Georgia, and my client would be dead.
Yes. And that is a sad case. That is a sad case. Guys, we're speaking about this particular incident that happened in Lansopine. This second story is a story that I'm very passionate about because I felt like as after I brought the story out, there was a sector of people who attacked my position on bringing the story out. It seemed to me like we were the villains in bringing out a story that affected someone that was terrorized in his almost in his own neighborhood. So I was shocked,
Yes,
amazed that some people took that position. I'm happy that we have Jerry Edwin on the program because he is a lawyer representing the young man, and it is still shocking that to me that the case has now changed a bit, or the case is looking as if it's changing a bit, where the person who attacked the young man is now asking the police to charge the young man for swearing at him. And that in
yes.
itself, it takes someone with big kahunas to actually put this thing together. Like, and for the police to actually go forward with that charge, it is even more hilarious to the case because
I
he even
hope. Yes,
go,
yes,
go
yes, Junior.
ahead,
I'm
Jerry.
sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead, brother.
No, he was also saying that he was telling the young man to call Officer Smith because Officer Smith is
Yes,
someone that he worked closely with in the police station.
yes,
So it's obvious he have
yes.
connections with the police, and so he could identify individuals that could stand up for him. And that is alarming. That should be flushed out completely. That should never allow to be happening.
Yeah, I think he will get a surprise. That fellow who was driving the car and used this car to intimidate my client, he has something coming. We will deal with this in the courthouse because Junior, it's such a relief to for me to come home from voluntary exile after four decades in the United States, where I became an adult. I went to college and got to know myself, and so got married and everything else. And then to come to feel always like a second class citizen, and then to come home to the place of my birth and feel as equal to everybody on the street, the smallest person. It is, I can't even explain. I mean, I don't want to go to America again. I mean, it's such a sense of belonging. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Of belonging to the human family on par with everyone else. I am as equal and of no greater merit than anybody on the street of St. Andrews or St. George's or
Mm-hmm.
Victoria, St. Mark's. And then to see that thing that Maurice spoke about, I mean, I'm using the metaphor, the pneumonia of creeping racism. After Gary had dealt with this in 1951, he burnt all the became the leader. And then they brought Gary into court almost every year until 1969.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get independence in 1974. And then to have a revolution where we had Germans and Chinese and Vietnamese and Americans and people from all over the world coming to participate in the experiment of the People's Revolutionary. That imploded in 1983. Grace of the Caribbean opened its up to everyone. Come visit our shores. We are friendly people. We treat everyone the same. And then you have these persons who come here and think they can import their brand of equality, really their superiority. Here in Grenada, no, we are going to strangle it and decapitate it. It's not going to live here in Grenada. Not going to live. Any specter of it. We had, for example, a fellow who owned a hotel telling the Prime Minister of Grenada that he was going to get rid of him. And as Dr. Mitchell said, you know, if I was on the street, I would have used different language. I mean, sometimes it really gets you by the short hairs when the equality that belongs to everyone in the human family, everyone in the human family is equal. You know, you come to a multicultural, multiracial place like the Caribbean. I mean, we are the only place in the world, the Caribbean, where we have Chinese, European, Black, living side by side. Indians from the continent, from the subcontinent, living side by. I mean, if you go to Trinidad, Africans celebrate Diwali like the Indians do. All the Africans put on their Indian robes during the festival of Diwali. We don't have space for racial attitudes in the region. And given our history and the struggle, we are going to beat this back as soon as it raises its head. We cannot wait. And I want to thank you for calling it out. We cannot wait. We have to call it out and stamp it out.
Absolutely.
Everyone is welcome in Grenada to be treated as a normal human being. And in return, you treat even the poorest among us as an equal human being. Anything less, well, we will deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember there was a white guy who said that we couldn't go to a beach and New Jewel movement was formed in St. David's? Well, let us hope that this person gets the message, because there are many foreigners, many Europeans here who live in absolute peace and harmony with us. But you will find that they are just like bad cops, right? You will find that they are bad apples. And when those bind them in the crate of mango, we are going to throw them out. It doesn't make for good social living. It does not. Cannot. And I'm really disheartened to hear that there would be Grenadian citizens, people of African descent, who do not understand the simple algebra of this. It's white privilege trying to assert itself.
No, I totally, disgusted by folks who would bring politics into it and say that they feel like they need to defend it. But that's a whole nother ride along. So Jerry, right now, what is this case at the moment? When is the next court date? What is expected at the next court date, and what outcome we're looking at?
Well, Brother Junior, when I heard of it and I contacted the police, and told them I actually challenged the police because apparently the charge was brought against my client, and I challenged them to bring that in the courthouse in front of any magistrate in Grenada, and the case has yet to be called. So we're we're waiting, but we are going to push ahead with my client's civil aspect of the case because there are certain violations of his personal rights and privileges that we could bring on in the civil jurisdiction of the court, and we intend to do so. We'll do so very shortly once we get the uh, the criminal cases lodged against this gentleman.
One question I had to ask about a legal question as it relates to profanity. Is it that if someone utter a profanity in to the annoyance of a person, does a police have to be in the presence to hear those utterance, or anyone could say, okay, well, he utter those profanity into my annoyance, so I want him to be charged? Does the police have to be witness to that?
No, in fact, that section of the law has a subsection A and subsection B. So anyone, Junior, you can walk down, you can go up to Subi's, ask somebody to sell you a sea egg. That's where you get the sea egg in Subi's, right? And say, hey, I want a sea egg. And the guy said, nah, they finished. I don't have any more. And then you tell him the story of creation from his mother's perspective. He can go to the police and
Right.
get you charged.
Okay.
If he does not, someone who hears it and
Right.
is offended
Right.
can go to the police and you would be charged. Right?
Right.
So on the one hand, the language can be profane and you can be charged, or it is simply language that is not profane. And this is really that is not profane, but it annoys the other person. You could be charged. I think
Okay.
that's why we have so much peace in Grenada. I think that's why
Yeah.
Grenada is such a nice place.
So
Yeah,
how do you defend that someone didn't use?
you hit it right on the head. But my first case when I came to Grenada concerned this section of the law. I've never heard anything like it because in the United States, language is very colorful, shall I say?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's where that's the behemoth. That's where I grew up. Dominant culture in the Western world, and we all know it. It is what we call a subjective law, meaning it is how the victim feels. The person, the complainant, shall I say, the complainant who brings it, it is from their perspective that the law views the abrogation. They simply have to say, I felt this way,
Hmm.
and you keep charged. And people are charged every day here in Grenada for that. Every day. Every day. As I said, I think that's why we have such peaceful relations in Grenada. Yes, we have, but relatively speaking, compared to the rest of the region, I mean, this was a law I thought that we should challenge in the constitutional courts. I've never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
But,
Because in the US, there's freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
yes,
Inject the U.S. Constitution into Grenada is totally different. The adaptation of the
correct,
Constitution is totally different.
correct.
Um, but does that mean that freedom of speech does not exist?
Oh no, you can speak. No, of course not. Speak, speak forever.
Just
Speak
don't
about
curse.
anything. Just don't be profane and don't annoy anyone.
Right. So a profane word could be not necessarily a curse word then, as long as it annoys someone.
Well, we know what the curse words are, as the comedian, I forgot his name, told us. You don't. The Supreme Court of the United States says, there is no definition of pornography. You know it when you see it, right? Similarly, A curse word, you know it when you hear it. So we know what it is. So accepting those curse words that are well known, annoying speech, and it cannot be, a police is not going to charge you if you call someone, you say, man, I don't like you, there's something about you. They're not going to charge you for that. But I have a client that called someone, say you're big and you're fat and ugly. You know the police charge her for that?
Yeah, someone was charged for calling a police officer a dunce head.
Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed.
Yeah,
Yes.
so there's a lot of gray areas in that legislation. And probably in another ride along we could go deeper into.
Yes, get Dr. Alexis, the constitutional scholar,
Yeah, yeah,
and he could discuss that with you.
yeah,
But
we could deep
you
into it.
know,
I
yeah.
wanna I wanna play back this last story, Jerry, that you were on yesterday. Let's take a look at it and then we'll discuss it
The
afterwards.
court is sending a message. This was the sentiment of lawyer Jerry Edwin following this morning's sentencing of a man charged with the wounding of a sergeant of police. 38-year-old Godwin John, a businessman of Grenville Street, St. George's, has been sentenced to 10 months in prison, 4 days after striking Sergeant Adrian Pantru over the head with a bottle. The wounding incident occurred on Friday at Grenville Street, St. George's, when Sergeant Pantru intervened in an altercation between two men and was struck with a bottle to his head, causing him to sustain an injury that warranted 5 stitches. Lawyer representing John, Jerry Edwin, said the court has had enough.
It's unfortunate that an ordinary assault has escalated into an offense that attracted a prison term. But it has been our practice lately in the courts because I think the magistrate and I think the rest of civil society is just tired of seeing altercations and public fighting. I mean, I think we've just had too much of it. And the reaction of the court this morning was to send a message. I think that really is what happened. The court is sending a message that public fighting will not be tolerated. I think the court perceives there's a breakdown in the social order.
The maximum penalty for wounding, according to Edwin, is normally 2 years and a maximum fine of $4,000. He says while the court was making a statement, other factors were considered in John's sentencing.
We asked the court to be lenient, and we think the court was in the circumstances because Mr. John did not know Sergeant Panchu was an officer of the law. I think that is clear. Granted, he was drinking, and alcohol does blow your vision, regardless of all the nice ads you see on television about the beauty of drinking alcohol. Alcohol is a precursor to violence. And Mr. John was inebriated, unfortunately. In a case like this, where the maximum is 2 years and $4,000, where a person receives 10 months in custody, that is justice. Justice was served in this case. And I must point out that Sergeant Panchu has declined compensation in this case because he was entitled to compensation.
Sergeant Panchu is said to be recovering at home in good spirits. Christina John, GBN News.
All right. That's again a clip from GBN News there, Christina John. Jerry, okay, let's piece this thing together here. Part of your response to this doesn't seem like you are the defense lawyer in this case. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
I've heard that before.
Right. Are you saying that you knew that your client was guilty, yet you defended him?
Let me take this apart for you.
Right.
There's a book written by an English lawyer. The title is, Mr. Clouden, my good friend Mr. Clouden says, you've got to read this book. And he had a copy of it and he lost it. Somebody took it from his office years ago. I researched it and I found the book and I bought 2 copies, one for myself, one for Mr. Clouden. The title of the book is Defending the Guilty. I prefer to say that we lawyers on the private bar, criminal bar. We represent persons. Remember, the state, the country, the nation, Grenada, has the police, the SSU, RRU, traffic cops, magistrates, clerks, and all the person who is accused has is one little lawyer going up against tremendous resources of the state. The commission of an offense by an individual. I mean, if somebody says, I committed the act that caused the assault, I could spin around like a dog trying to take a mess, but I can't change that fact.
Right. Right.
I cannot change that fact. What I could do in representing, defending my client is to find what we call mitigating factors
Practice. Right.
so that the full bus of the law is not driven over his body. So, if the client is charged with murder and we can show a jury circumstances in which this person was, the person who committed the offense was in some kind of peril, so that the charge becomes manslaughter,
Right.
we have been victorious. If an offense in the book merits a fine of $4,000 and your client receives 10 months, I believe that we have served our client very well. Because I would tell you the circumstances of it. You know, I represent a 17-year-old young man. And 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, a gang of them attacked another young man, 18 years old. And one of them, my client was charged, but we're not clear that he was actually the one who did the stabbing. My client was charged with dangerous harm, because if that gone a little bit to the left, the charge would not have been dangerous harm. It may have been murder. Last week, I represented another young man who ran through the streets of St. George's. He's 18 years old. He's 19 years old, sorry. After another young man with a cutlass, intent on doing deadly harm. I mean, bystanders said people, the street parted like the Red Sea. You know the biblical story.
Right.
Everybody ran to the side. So if the magistrate hears our argument that our client does not deserve the full weight of the law, then we have to acknowledge the facts of the case. My client says to the police, yes, I struck the man in his head. I did not know he was a police officer. He saw the police officer when he was arrested, when Mr. John was arrested. He saw the officer at CID. And he said to him, I didn't know you were a police officer. Officer Panchu said to him, somebody said that I don't care if he's a policeman. And then Mr. John said to him, but it was me that said that.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately after the officer in the head, My client made a full-throated admission. He didn't prevaricate. That's a fancy word for lying. He didn't delay. He simply said, I did it. I was wrong. I should not have struck the police. But this is a signal lesson for me about, again, alcohol. I mean, we have alcohol at sports games. You see alcohol producers and manufacturers in every school event. I mean, we drinking is part of our culture, they tell us. And I
But Jerry,
see.
isn't that an excuse? I'm listening to you and I'm hearing you, but isn't that an excuse for being violent? Whether the guy is a police or not a police, whether he's a regular civilian or whatever, the guy acted violently.
But
He had the
let's see.
faculty.
So let me tell you what the facts are. Let me tell you what the facts are in this case. And that's why it's so important that what you're doing here, Julian. It's very important what you're doing here. Mr. John is standing at St. Jules Street and Grenville Street. For those of you who know St. George's, the area we call Four Roads. He looks down. He said he was drinking vodka all day, and he has a Guinness, and now he's sipping the Guinness. And he sees a relative of his brother, being beaten by someone about 100 meters down the road, close to Hankey's computer shop.
Right.
He sees his brother on the ground being plummeled. And he sees a person standing next to the person who is beating up his brother. That's what he sees.
Right.
What would anybody do? I mean, I'm not saying they are correct. I think what you do is you find a law officer or you run down there and you try to part them.
Right.
Say, hey, stop it. But he reacted in a violent manner because he saw his brother being beaten up, on the ground being plummeled. And he thought the person who was aiding and abetting that person was the police officer. He didn't realize it was a police officer. So what does he do? He came to the rescue of his brother. By the way, the law allows you to be violent in certain circumstances, huh? Just so we're clear. But he was wrong. He struck the officer in the head, and when he was arrested, and in his statement, and in the magistrate's court, he told the magistrate, he told everyone who would listen, I'm wrong. I did not, I was wrong to do this. That's the kind of clients you want, brother. You don't want the kind of client who comes to you and makes up a story and tells you, oh, the officer pushing me and fighting me. I had to defend myself, so I struck him in the head with a bottle. I was not there. What do? I go in, I represent him, and then I have to fight with the prosecutor over what are clearly erroneous facts told to me by my client. I think you represent your client. I think the way of practicing this craft is to represent your client in his best interest.
Right.
That's what I do. I put myself in the position. What would I want? I would want somebody to say the truth about what happened. Mind you, the burden of proof is always on the prosecutor. On a case in the High Court 2 days ago, where someone was maimed, right? And couldn't prove their case. My client prevailed when we presented our case. But this is not that. This case with Mr. John is not that. I caused the harm. I didn't know who the gentleman was. I thought I was going to the aid of my brother. But, as I give you a couple of examples, we, as Chief St. Louis says correctly, coming on the heels of these marauding groups of young men who attack innocent persons, he has to send a message. He has to send a message. It may sound strange to hear a defense lawyer say it, but I think after we got 10 months, when it could have been 2 years and $4,000, as my client told me, he's satisfied with the outcome. And that's all that matters.
Right, right, right. And again, someone said it here. I think it was Wayne. The question is, did the lawyer represent his client? And as you said, your job is to defend the best interest of your client. He could have gotten
Absolutely.
2 years in prison, and you
Absolutely.
saved him from getting that time. So
Absolutely.
you did a good job in representing him.
Yes. My
Um,
client he was pleased. His family was pleased with the outcome because they knew he was facing 2 years. And for lay people who don't understand what happens in the court, where the sanction is 5 years, 7 years, 10 years in prison, and your lawyer is able to negotiate based on by the way, I should say this. My client pled guilty at the first instance. And under the law, under the common law, whether it's in America, Canada, Grenada, Trinidad, or the United Kingdom, when you do not put the court through a useless waste of time,
right,
your client is credited. And so my client got a 1/3 discount because of that. Yes? He pled
right.
guilty. His remorse was complete. And so lay people, maybe they want to go and stand in the dock to understand it. But, we work for our client, for that one person who tells us their position, and we use the law not so that they could walk out of jail or escape the jail for doing something awful, but that we could mitigate, that is, lessen the impact of the punishment upon them. I mean, we cannot make up facts. We cannot make up facts. There were witnesses who saw what happened. And if someone thinks that the role of a lawyer is always to get people to walk, then they're not really appreciating the reality of the day-to-day work that is done in the criminal courts.
Right. That's why I like speaking to lawyers, and you in particularly, because we get to understand what really go on in the court. I mean, we could sit here and mitigate a story, but this is not a court of law. This is a court of public opinion. And sometimes we sway the public in one way or another, but at the end of the day, when you sit in court, and I've sat in court, I've been working with lawyers for a very long time. When you sit in court, you hear the evidence, you see the solid evidence, and it has been presented, and the judge would make a decision on that. And I completely understand that, and no one could fault you. I don't think anyone could fault you for representing your client. That is your job, and I think you do it pretty well. Um, but I think it was a good opportunity for you to come and explain the situation, because from a news report, from a layman's perspective, it's like, well, how could he say that? He didn't defend his client then. He did a horrible job. And I would remember you clarified it here as well back about 2-3 years ago, where they said that you basically abandoned your client. That was a headline.
I tell you, everybody encouraged me at the bar, especially my colleagues at the private bar, said, file a defamation lawsuit because you will definitely win. It was such a misleading headline. I mean, here
Yeah.
you have a guy who comes out of jail after spending a long time. He had raped an 80-something-year-old woman. He was only in his 20s at the time. Comes out of jail after a long sentence and takes all his clothes off, puts tar on his body like he's playing jab jab, and he goes and he assaults a woman the day after he got out of jail, after more than 10 years. He assaults the woman. And then he comes to me, well, he sees me in the court, and he says, hey, Mr. Edwin, because I used to see him in the jail when I do my jail visits. He says to me, Mr. Edwin, and I knew him. I said, brother, wait a minute, I thought you were out. He said, Mr. Edwin, just represent me, please. And I said, what you want to do? He said, I'm pleading guilty. And I got it right away. I mean, we don't live in the sky, we live in this world. And I understood that Randy wanted to go back to prison. I mean, so I did the mitigation for him, but I wanted to be clear. So in the court, I asked Randy, I said, Randy, you just got out of jail. What do you want to do? And Randy lifted his face toward the prison. Randy, where are your friends? Randy, get into the prison. I mean, it's, see, when Randy's in prison, Randy has status. He's a great. I mean, this is it's very difficult. You have to take people in the situation they are in. Randy has respect in the prison. He has a trade in the prison. He has responsibility. People look up to him. Yes. So I did the mitigation for him. I asked the court to be merciful. I asked the court to treat his admission and give him the discount that he's entitled to. And then the headline says that I didn't represent my client. So,
that one was funny though. But Jerry, listen, we short on time here, but I have to appreciate the fact whenever you get a chance to come and clear up some of the stories that you're working on. Yes, Jerry Edwin was also the lawyer that represented Akeem. Was it? Yes. He also represented the young man that was seen on video with a dagger.
If you want to catalog cases, I would invite you to please speak to Mr. Sylvester. He's just written a book, Trials of a Trial Lawyer.
Yes, yes.
And he has 20 years of cases from Grenada. He would make a much more interesting guest than I.
You're pretty interesting as well. But Mr. Sylvester is my good friend as well. So I'll talk to him. But Jerry, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us. We appreciate you, my brother.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And good night to your audience as well.
All right, and we're linking up tomorrow, Jerry. We're linking up tomorrow.
Okay, brother. Yes, please make sure you see me before we go back up into the cold.
I got you.
Okay, good night, everyone.
All right, good night. Yeah. Yeah, so that was attorney Jerry Edwin, one of the controversial and outspoken lawyers in Grenada. Hey, some people like him, some people don't like him. I mean, Jerry Edwin is controversial. Oh Lord, but he's a good friend of mine, and whenever we get a chance to speak with him, it's always a good conversation. We appreciate that very much. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for being a part of our program today. We have a few more shows that we're going to be doing in Grenada. Tomorrow, I'm going to be someplace in the country, flying over by Birch Grove area, and also we're going to go down that St. James, Ladigue area there, check out what's happening in the countryside, and just continue to feature and showcase Grenada from all aspect, right? So keep looking out for the videos when we post it on our page. Share it. I posted one yesterday, and it was a short one. I think it's up to about 30,000 views now. We appreciate you guys for sharing that video. And today we posted one on my page as well, where I was at Melville Street. So I want you guys to go and share that one as well. Give you some nice bird's eye view. Yeah, bird's eye view as to what's happened. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you. And we'll catch you guys again tomorrow right here and Ride Along. Boris, big up yourself. Don't get trouble today, please, sir. Don't get trouble today, please. You got a lawyer, Get your lawyer to write you, Favor King, big up yourself. On the question of Spice Mass is a subject that we spoke about yesterday. And if you guys want to find out more on the status of Spice Mass, what's happening with Spice Mass, you guys could go back and watch the program yesterday. We had an in-depth conversation on that. And there will be more information that will be released on Spice Mass in a couple days, coming days and weeks from the Spice Mass Corporation. And we're going to syndicate it out here as well on Ride Along Live. All right. Jane Chateau. How you doing, Jane? We got to go fishing. We got to go fishing. All right. Don't forget, this weekend we done. And while we in Grenada, I'm going to have about 4 or 5 friends, top fans, right? Not a lot. We're getting a catamaran, and this is a real give back to some of our top fans and supporters. If you want to go out with us, we're just going out to Molinaire and we're going scuba diving, right? We're going scuba diving. If you are around and you want to join with us on Molinaire, we're going to be out on, I think, on Friday. Let me know, and we'll get you on board with us. But that's for the top fans and supporters who in Grenada that want to go out with us on Friday. All right, it's a private kind of cruise thing that we're going out and food and drinks and everything. All right, so that's on Friday. Okay, and we're leaving early because we're going at about 9 a.m. and we only have space for like about 5 people because we don't want to make it a big outing. The most we can have about 10 people in total. So my family, a few of our top fans and friends going out to Molinaire on a catamaran on Friday. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching and being a part of our program. From all our moderators, we have Deanne, Fraser, we have Kibbs, we have Gail, and our senior producer, Lois JJ. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure coming on. Catch you guys again tomorrow. Peace out and good night.
Williams Funeral Service serve you with dignity and compassion as you mourn. Every day, we embark on the journey of life, and one day, the journey will end. It's on that day that you can entrust the celebration of life of your loved ones to David Williams Funeral Service. Call 718-291-3823.
Hello there. Let me introduce you to the Nutmeg Band. Playing in the background is the latest release, Take Me to a Party.
Take me to a party.
This music is now available on leading online stores. So please, pick up your copy today and tell all your friends about it. Get your copy now.